Hello and welcome to Binge Watch, the podcast where we take a look at the hottest new TV and film releases on streaming television platforms. I'm Hannah Fernando, the group editor of Woman and Woman and Home magazine.
And I'm Ian McEwan, writer on TV and Satellite Week, TV Times and What's on TV magazines. And today we're looking at the new releases that will be available on Friday the 13th of February 2026, including Mackenzie Crook's magical suburban sitcom Small Profits, starring the detectorists Pierce Quigley, and feature-length documentary Becoming Victoria Wood on You.
And we'll also find out how to get to heaven from Belfast in a new Netflix comedy drama from the creator of the very brilliant Derry Girls, and check out the new BBC adaptation of William Golding's classic novel Lord of the Flies on BBC iPlayer. But Ian, what is in the news, please?
The Boys' Anthony Starr, who plays Homelander in that sort of dystopian superhero series on Prime, well, he's going to headline in Netflix's Australia-set backpacking drama Breakers. What else is in the news, Hannah?
Well, this is relatively random, but Cameron Diaz and Stephen Merchant are getting married. Not really.
Yes.
No, not really. It's not for real. It's a yet untitled Prime Video romantic comedy. I'll leave that there.
Well, we have got a really good lineup this week. And I would say, well, it's a toss-up really, but for my money, we're starting with the best of the bunch. It's a new comedy called Small Profits. And here's a clip.
I met a man who'd managed to grow homunculi.
Delightful people in jars.
Excuse me, you sell buckets?
Buckets? No.
I'm always wondering what he's up to in that shed of his.
Are you two an item?
No!
You can ask them questions about the future.
They will always answer with the truth.
What are you going to ask them?
So this is available as a box set on BBC iPlayer. It's the creation of Mackenzie Crook, who, of course, wrote and starred in Detectorists, which was just wonderful and just highly original and just so charming about a pair of metal detectorists, himself and Toby Jones. He also rebooted Wurzel Gummidge and starred in it as the talking scarecrow. That was delightful as well. Also quite pastoral like Detectorists. And this is his latest offering. It's about this guy called Michael, played by Pierce Quigley, who was in Detectorists and he's a very quite a sort of quirky actor, I would say. He's got a very distinctive way of being on camera and delivering his lines, which I love. I absolutely, and it's great to see him in a lead role. Fantastic. He works at a DIY store and he lives in the house he shared with his partner Claire, but she disappeared 7 years ago. Okay. Well, you have Sir Michael Palin playing his father Brian, who lives in a care home. Crook does appear in it at the DIY store as Gordon, who is the manager with a really horrible ratty ponytail. Very funny character. The scenes in the DIY store are just very highly amusing. I would recommend watching this if you can without knowing where it's going. So if you'd rather not know how it pans out, you could skip forward if you'd like to, because it's just the most unexpected and magical and delightful thing that you could imagine. Let's just say Michael's dad, Brian, suggests a rather unlikely way for him to be able to find out the truth about what happened to Claire. That's all I'll say. And the way it unfolds is just the most astonishing thing, I've seen in a long while, and just a pure delight and just so original. And we'd said this about Waiting for the Out, but for me, this is probably the comedy of the year already. It's got our old favourite Paul Kay in it as Michael's brother-in-law, Roy, who wants the house back. He sort of considers the sister's never going to appear again. We also have Sophie Willan. Oh, she plays one of the neighbours. I love Sophie Willan. This is a must-see. I mean, he's done it again. Mackenzie Crook has done it again. I don't know how he comes up with this stuff, but he's an absolute national treasure, a huge talent, and this is wonderful. Don't miss it. Hannah, what did you think?
Well, he's already won a BAFTA, hasn't he? And I think he deserves another one, really, because I don't quite know how, like you say, how he comes up with this stuff, because it's just absolutely not what you'd expect. You couldn't make this up, could you? And you have to be careful not to spoil any of this in many ways, because it's easy to spoil, and yet equally as, like you say, joyful and magical in its own way. I really enjoyed it. I love the fact that he comes in and plays a part and has a little cameo role as well. There's some great names in this, as you've already mentioned. And Paul Kay, who plays Roy, I just think there's some comic genius, that runs all the way through this. And yes, it's based on something that's pretty awful, a woman's disappearance 7 years ago. And as you say, he can't his life just kind of comes to a standstill. There's lots of nosy neighbours. It's very, very funny. Mackenzie Crook's pulled it out of the bag once again.
Over on Netflix, we have a new comedy drama called How to Get to Heaven from Belfast. And here's a clip.
Why contact us in the first place? It's been 20 years.
She fell down the stairs, the poor thing.
There's something sort of creepy about this place. It's freaking me out. Calm down.
Everything's fine.
Shit balls.
Wait!
Well, we are big fans of the Derry Girls, aren't we, Ian? And this is giving it a run for its money, I think, because again, it's another show with friendship, female friendship at the core, at its heart. It has a different twist that couldn't be doing the same thing again, obviously. And this is kind of a dark mystery, I suppose, that's the difference in this. It's got 8 episodes, and 3 friends learn that their estranged childhood friend Greta has passed away. So off they go to very rural Donegal to pay their respects, and it's very comedic around. I think I've talked about this before. It's kind of weird when there's sort of death and upset, but then it becomes comedy at the same time. That weird juxtaposition, but it kind of works because often when you feel very awkward, you do laugh, don't you? That's kind of a human reaction to situations when you shouldn't be laughing and you just do. And there's one situation where she goes to look in the funeral directors at the coffin, doesn't want to open the lid, and of course the lid falls off, and she actually finds that Greta's not in there at all, and of course chaos ensues. Lots of just sort of crazy scenarios that I say is this has this core friendship at heart. So yes, they're trying to find out what's going on. They're all very different characters as well, these women, and you really get to know them as the series goes on, as the episodes go on, and you kind of see parts of their life, what it was like originally when they were mates before, when they were younger, how their lives have grown up together. And I think that I think that men and women would enjoy this in equal measure, but I think there's a lot of women, I talk for myself here, where you look at those friends and you think, God, you know what, that would be us on a road trip. That is absolutely hilarious. You just kind of like fall about laughing, and that real strength of female friendship really shines through in this. It's given that it's got this sort of dark side to it. It is very funny. It's brilliant. I didn't think that anything could be as good as Derry Girls, but I think it's up there. I really do.
It is excellent, isn't it? And there are these flashbacks to the 4 friends as schoolgirls. So it's almost got that feeling of like the Derry Girls grown up, what might have happened to them. So we've got Robin, played by Sinead Keenan, who is a mother of 3, and you just see she's quite a handful. You just see her screaming her head off in the car while she's driving the kids around. She's highly amusing. And then you've got Dara, played by Keelan Dunn, is also another terrific. She was in 1,000 Blows actually. She's a terrific comedy character. I think they're all quite original. They're not like sort of comedy stereotype characters. They're believable. So you've also got Saoirse, played by Rasheen Gallagher, who was in The Dry, and she's fab. She plays an author. She's engaged to a guy called Seb, who's played by the super talented Mr. Tom Basden. Yeah, so as you say, it definitely has got that road trip vibe, because off they go. The car breaks down. They stay in this dreadful hotel, and Ardal O'Hanlon is the manager of the hotel, which is great. I love it. Some other familiar faces in here that you will recognise. But yeah, Lisa McGee, she's so talented, and she's done it again, a bit like Mackenzie Crook. She's done it again, hasn't she? So I think it's very difficult to get that mixture of, it's very, very funny. You know, it's a writer at the height of her powers, because the dialogue is just absolutely so sharp and so original, unexpected one-liners that just make you laugh out loud. But it also has to have this believably scary kind of undertow as well. And then there's also clearly some kind of secret from when they were kids. Something happened. What was it? Check it out. You won't be disappointed. We go back to good old BBC iPlayer now. For a new drama, you may recognise the title, Lord of the Flies. And here's a clip.
We're having a meeting. Don't join in. We're on an island and there's no people here. Let's allocate jobs. Yes, I'd like to be chief.
There's more littlings than I remember when we planned.
We need to think about food and shelters. We need to help each other. We need to be good campmates. We're going to hunt pigs and get meat for everybody.
Don't you feel it, Jack? When you're in the forest, when you're on your own.
I am a hunter. You're the chief. You're a failure. I don't want this. I never wanted this.
Well, of course, Hannah, it's a classic novel, isn't it? That was written quite a long time ago. Well, 1954 it was published. It's by William Golding, and for many, many years, I don't know if it's still the case, it was on the sort of school curriculum for English lit. So yeah, I remember reading it and being utterly gripped by it when I was at school. And it is about, spoiler alert, a group of schoolboys who are sort of stranded on a desert island after a sort of plane crash. I think it's very well done. So previously, films have been made, one in 1963, one in 1990. It's set in the 1950s. And the three main characters, there's Ralph, played by Winston Sawyers, who's sort of like he's voted the leader of the group. I mean, it must have been quite an undertaking to film this, because they're taking these very young boys, some of them are really young, a huge group of them, to Malaysia to film. So yeah, there's Ralph, who's he's kind of like, you know, he's very charismatic. He's elected as the leader. Then you have Piggy. Each episode is sort of introduces one of the characters. So episode 1 is Piggy, played by David McKenna. Oh, it's a brilliant performance. It really is. So he's mature beyond his years, but he's kind of bullied by everyone else. Then there's Jack, played by Lox Pratt, who I think has been cast as, I can't remember the name, but the blonde baddie at Hogwarts in the new version of Harry Potter. And he's great as Jack, who's the head of the choir and decides he will be in charge of hunting. Jack Thorne has adapted it, and of course he's done so much good stuff, but most recently he did Adolescence, which was a huge deal. These two shows kind of speak to each other, because this is sort of about, you know, masculinity and, you know, what happens when it's sort of left with no controls, stops or controls. I mean, it's an absolutely classic story. I think they've done a great job on it. I love the way they've filmed it, because they've got a lot of these real close-up portraits of the boys' faces, just staring into the camera and not saying anything. It's highly effective. Yeah, these young actors do a fabulous job. So, I mean, if you're not familiar with Lord of the Flies, the story, you are in for an absolute treat. It's, you know, it's pretty sobering watch, but yeah, I think it's a great adaptation that does justice to the original book. Was this for you, Hannah?
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? It's quite gritty. I like that word. It's really quite gritty. But I love the fact that each episode is shown from the perspective of one of the main characters, because you really then get to know the character, don't you? You really understand the workings of them, and whether you like them or you don't like them, or their kind of undertone. Whereas sometimes when you've got episodes where it's just lots of different people coming together, it takes longer to work that out. And I think that kind of adds, in honesty, to the intensity of this. And I don't know, it has a real depth to it. It feels like a massive vanity project, actually, but yet one that's totally believable and credible. And when I say vanity, I usually mean that in a sort of a way that's not particularly supportive, but I don't mean that with this. I mean it is literally someone who's put everything into this, and no stone is kind of unturned, and it feels very, very believable, and somebody who's absolutely studied this and knows, because I think quite often when you see something turned into a film or a series, it's never really quite what it once was, and I think this is about as close as you're going to get.
Well, we're going to finish over on You and Gold and the streaming platform You with a feature-length documentary that did get a cinema release. It's called Becoming Victoria Wood. And here's a clip.
She was the trailblazer.
She was fearless.
Victoria Wood.
I never quite seen anybody like her.
Hello.
She was just Vicky. Vic's performing character wasn't Vic. It's one step removed.
She was a very shy person.
Off I go then.
She needed to become comfortable as herself.
Well, I'm a huge fan of Victoria Wood, so I was delighted to watch this and to be able to talk about it today, because this is nearly 10 years. I couldn't believe it, actually. Nearly 10 years since she passed away. And just, it feels like yesterday almost, doesn't it? She was such a character. She made such an impression on the comedy circle, on the comedy circuit, and everybody that she sort of seemed to come in touch with, really, doesn't she? I mean, in this, as you say, it's had an outing at the cinema already, and I hadn't seen it at the cinema, so this is something that's just really warm and lovely to sit down with a blanket over and just watch and delight in, because there's lots of people, lots of collaborators. You've got Jennifer Saunders, Dawn French, the ever brilliant Dawn French. You've got Jasper Carrot, Joan Armatrading, massive fan, and Michael Bull, and they all are speaking about her, what they know of her, and you learn so much. We think we know people, but it's like with everything, any of these kind of documentaries that are particularly music related, you always learn something. And in the same way you learn a lot about Victoria Wood, she was quite a shy character. You don't often think about that about comedians, do you, that go on the stage? Of course, she did lots of TV work too. But, you don't imagine her being shy. But yet she was kind of uncomfortable under the spotlight, but yet fiercely ambitious at the same time. And those two opposites just seem to be the great formula. And what really shone through in this for me is her want to help people all the time, the underdog, and I think that's really lovely, because once you've made it, it's very easy, as we know in the industry we're in, to get swept along with what everyone's telling you, what everyone's saying, what should be done. And she didn't, did she? She was very much true to herself, her roots. She was authentic. She really is a comedic genius in so many ways, and so loved, and this is really, I think this is really fitting for to remember her for 10 years on, which I just can't believe. And I hope that memory lasts forever, because she's one of a kind, I think. What do you think, Ian?
Well, I thought I knew a lot about Victoria Wood, but I learned so much from this, and obviously that's partly the benefit of it being feature length. And I was lucky enough to talk to the director, Catherine Abbott, about it, and she's done a wonderful job on this. And there's quite a lot of sadness in there, really, because you hear a bit about Victoria's childhood, which was, quite isolated, I think, quite difficult. She was quite a solitary child. She was very self-conscious about her appearance. As you say, she was very shy. And it's interesting how some shy people are drawn to performance, even though they find it excruciatingly uncomfortable. There's something that kind of they want to do that. And it says that she saw Joyce Grenfell at the theatre when she was very young, and she was doing like a one-woman show, and she thought, oh, okay, so you can do that. You can be a woman on your own on the stage, and everyone's listening to you and laughing at you. You know, she was trying to break into the world of comedy and TV comedy as a woman and a northerner. And, you know, people would make comments about her appearance in interviews. Some of the stuff is just cringeworthy when you see this archive footage of how she was interviewed. But she had this inner strength and just this belief, thank goodness, in her own ability and this burning ambition. I think she was runner-up in New Faces. She won her heat, which was a talent show back in the day. I guess it was like the original equivalent to Britain's Got Talent. And it felt like that was going to be the big breakthrough. And then she got a slot on That's Life, which was the hugely popular consumer program presented by Esther Ranson, doing comedy songs. I mean, her songs like the Ballad of Barry and Frida, for instance, were great. But she had to write songs about a subject that they chose every week. She didn't like it. And then things just went quiet. And it was meeting Julie Walters at a theatre review she was appearing in London was clearly a key moment. And of course, Julie kind of became her muse in many ways. And this kind of takes you up really to, because Wood and Walters was their first series on TV together, because Victoria she would only do it if Julie Walters was also heavily featured. I think that kind of gave her confidence. And it takes you up to Victoria Wood as seen on TV, where she's got this little ensemble, Celia Imrie, Julie, of course, Duncan Preston, and then the brilliant sitcom, of course, Dinner Ladies as well. And as you say, a lot of her comedic characters were underdogs, people who kind of felt invisible or kind of, underrated. So I think with the passage of time, we're just coming to realise how incredible and how trailblazing Victoria Wood was. And yeah, you see some great Acorn Antiques footage, and of course the Two Soups sketch with Julie Walters as the waitress. So yeah, there's some stand-up, some songs. It's just a delight from start to finish. Well, we've got to that time, Hannah, where we find out what the hell you've been binge watching.
Well, probably, definitely what you're going to say as well, because you can't move for the Olympics, can you? But I have been watching Bridgerton. And do you know what? It's funny because they only drop a few, don't they, before they drop the next lot. It's very annoying. It's very annoying when it's raining outside. I want the whole lot, thanks, please, next time.
Yeah, and they've just dropped a lot of classic Spider-Man films on Netflix, so I've been wasting a lot of time rewatching them. But yes, of course, Winter Olympics today, I was watching the short track speed skating, which is absolutely thrilling. The snowboarding, big air, I mean, my goodness.
The ice skating is amazing.
It's great stuff, isn't it? And I was lucky enough today, this very day, to talk to Billy Munger, who is going to be on the Channel 4 team for the Paralympic Winter Games, which will follow, I think, just a couple of weeks after the Winter Olympics. So looking forward to those. Now, we've just got time to look ahead to next week's offering. So what is on the agenda, Brenda?
Well, we've seen lots of Colin Minches, haven't we, on the Ramsays recently, and lots to come from this new Netflix documentary about them, finding out what it's like to be Gordon Ramsay. It's on Netflix. He is obviously the very, at times, obnoxious celebrity chef. Lots of fun, but of course, as I say, has made lots of Colin Minches in recent times.
Well, I was on the Underground late at night in London one night, and quite drunk woman couldn't stop laughing, kept looking at me and pointing, and eventually she just said, "Gordon Ramsay," which I found very annoying, so I moved carriage. Anyway, that's by the by. We also have the Tony Blair story on Channel 4, another documentary looking back on the former Prime Minister's life and career. So we look forward to those and much, much more. But in the meantime, dear listeners, keep watching.